how to overcome fear and doubt and trusting your intuition. In this video, I'm gonna share with you some simple tools to help you move from fear to trust. Recognize why you don't need to overcome fear, but actually learn to not let it be the driver of your life. Distinguish anxiety and fearful thinking from actual intuition, and how to make decisions in the present moment that will help you build those core muscles so that you can build more confidence in yourself and your intuition. How do I overcome fear and doubt so that I can trust my intuition? This is a question that I'm asked a lot with my clients, in my mentoring. And today we're going to talk about how we can use fear, how we can listen to what's underneath fear so that it's not the driver of our lives. Because what I see so often is that so many of my clients get really clear intuitive guidance. They know that it's time to ask for that promotion, to go for that trip, to get out of that relationship. But fear keeps them stuck. And instead of taking action, they keep getting into trying to figure it out, which keeps them stuck in these patterns and these cycles. So how do we get out of it? How do I move from fear to flow? How do I better trust myself, my intuition, my spirit, so that I can create the life that I really want? Well, before I go any further, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sonia. I'm a 4th generation intuitive, and I teach you how to plug back into your innate divine self, your intuition. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. If you're returning, welcome back. Don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell notification because I release new videos every single week. And actually, if you're someone who's wanting to develop a deeper relationship with your intuition, with more trust and flow, I am actually having my new Psychic University class that is starting October 5th, where we'll work in a group step by step so that you can better trust your intuition, yourself, discern fearful thinking, anxiety from your true intuitive self, and more. So don't forget to check out the description box below. I can't wait to see you there. So let's talk about fear. Fear is a biological evolutionary tool that we've had to keep us safe. Now, often fear shows up when we are being asked to step into the unknown. And fear often tries to protect us from being uncomfortable, from change, or from looking stupid or making mistakes. Now, fear is a really powerful tool from our ego intellect. Our intellect and our ego is what is sort of the protective bubble. And the way that it looks at the world as me versus you, and you scare me. And it tries to keep us safe. But the only information that it has is like access to like a teeny tiny peephole. And what it does is it often goes back in our lives and looks at stories that repeat over and over again. And really, it hijacks our imagination for worst case scenario. So with that, we end up often getting stuck in these cycles of overthinking or even wishful thinking instead of actually heeding the call from within and actually taking action. So the first thing that we have to recognize about fear is that it's an important emotion. But with fear is the main driver of your life. It will always, first, it never is in your best interest. It rarely makes decisions that are actually in your best interest. 2, when we're in fear, it'll often make our worlds really, really small. We will stay at a job that's not right for us, a relationship that's not right for us. It will tell us that those calls from within are dangerous, when instead they're just asking us to do something different. And intuition, because it is the voice of your spirit, of your innate divine self, it often will bring in something new or different. It'll ask you to do something outside of your normal wheelhouse. And because it's your innate divine self, it'll always guide you to your highest good, even if it's uncomfortable, often if it's uncomfortable. A sign that we know that we're growing is that we are uncomfortable. So like I said, it's not about overcoming fear, but learning to dance with it and not letting it be the one to make decisions. So one thing that we often do when we're in fear is that we try and reason ourselves out of it, or tell ourselves that we shouldn't be feeling that way, which can lead to shame, feeling like I should be fearless, like I shouldn't be feeling this way. And that compresses every single thing within us and pops not only our spirit out of our body, but also the present moment to choose. So when we look and make decisions out of fear, everything is predictable, it's safe, but it also is what will suffocate ourselves in life. It's like a Tempur-Pedic pillow. So the first thing that we have to notice is, one, that fear talks a lot. It uses a lot of words. If, should, have to, must. It tries to come up with every single outcome that could happen, when in reality, we have to remember that you don't know. And that when we can start to recognize and open into I don't know, not as a bad or dangerous thing, but as a place of curiosity, we can start to breathe into fear, and that's where it becomes adventure. So I want to really quickly tell you a story. When I graduated college, I had two of my friends invite me on a trip to Southeast Asia. And I started in Vietnam, and they arrived before me. And so I arrived in Ho Chi Minh City by myself late at night. I showed up to the hostel that I had booked, and they had no reservation. I called my dad, freaking out. He found me a hotel. I get to the hotel, and the next day I reached out to my friends to meet up with them, and they had taken a bus to the next city. Now, fear paralyzed me. My fear thought, oh my goodness, first, they didn't really want me to come and they ditched me. Second of all, then my fear was like, well, then I'm gonna go do this by myself. Then my fear said, well, maybe you should just go home and this is too big of a thing. And all of these narratives were just rolling around in my head of all of the possibilities that were not true. And so I had to make a decision. So I went for a walk, and I went to like a little restaurant by myself. I was afraid to order, afraid to make a mistake, afraid to order the wrong thing. But instead, I just took a deep breath and made a decision to act even though I had fear. And in that moment, my intuition told me, it got underneath all that chattering noise of a little rotisserie chicken from a spit, and it just said, go for it. So I booked my bus ticket to go meet them, even though I was afraid. I got on the bus, even though I was afraid, and ended up having a really amazing adventure filled with so many different synchronicities, so many different possibilities, so many different things that really reminded me that if I had let fear be in charge, I would have been on the first plane back home. And when we can recognize that fear is often a place where we need compassion. So the first thing that happens when we're in fear is that we cut off our breath. We end up in here. So the first thing we can do is just notice, I'm in fear. I'm in a lot of chatter. Starting by taking a deep breath, imagine like you're breathing up through your feet, and exhaling like you're exhaling 10 birthday candles. And we can do that even a few more times, which drops us back into the present moment. Second, recognizing that fear tells a lot of stories. The stories that it told me were really mean, that my friends didn't want me, that I had made a huge mistake, that I was in over my head. But the interesting thing about fear is when we listen to underneath it and first say, am I really in danger? No. That it really often is pointing us to those opportunities to grow, to get out of our comfort zone. So instead of having to fight against it or run away from it, we can actually start to lean in to those different experiences. They become our doorways for growth. Third, when we can actually start to look at these different experiences and put it into practice. If you are afraid of asking for a promotion, we can breathe into that and just practice. I'm gonna practice, and I'm gonna be open, and instead of assuming what I know the outcome is going to be, I'm just going to show up there. The more that we can make little itty bitty teeny tiny decisions of practicing with fear when they aren't huge, when the stakes aren't so high, we become more flexible and build almost like our own intuitive muscles so that we can start to make those bigger leaps. So one thing of really getting clear of, like, what are you afraid of? The more that we can get clear on what our minds are telling us, the second thing we can start to ask is that true? Is that true? If I ask my boss for a promotion, is he gonna yell at me? Probably not. If I take this new job, is it really out of my wheelhouse? Probably not. We can start to give voice to what those fears are. And actually if you start to say them out loud, you can start to pay attention to the vibration. You can start to ask yourself, is that actually true? And from there, that's where we can, for ourselves, build that place of our inner confidence and make those choices. So recognize that fear is often the gateway to growth, our greatest spirit and our soul's desire. And that we can't confuse fear with reality. Even though fear feels real and is real, it's not true. So where can we create more space, internal space? Where can we create more choice? And where can we lean into discomfort as a friend and learn to dance with it instead of fight against it? So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Like I said, breathe. Also, move your energy is a really good one. Helps us get out of that overthinking back into our bodies. Naming what we're afraid of in real clear terms out loud helps us to define, and asking, is that true? Is that true? Is that a story? Does that come from my past? And can I be open to something new coming in? And finally, making a choice to be uncomfortable and recognize that we're not in danger. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a comment. What do you do to help calm and quiet the anxieties that start to show up for yourself? And don't forget to check out my group class. I would be so thrilled to have you there. And subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I will see you next week. Sending you all my love.